doing actually the inner work together through the transpersonal of our own nervous systems. So important, especially in these times.
I love that you're doing that work with your teams, with the lawyers, with the entrepreneurs that you coach. And it was a thought I had during that session. And I've known, but there's these moments when it becomes ever clearer that in order for us to actually shape the emerging future, be successful and well in our own lives, have healthy families, have healthy communities, there's a lot to it. And an important part of it is that we do our practice together, that our resilience building and building our vitality is not just something we do by ourselves, but that it's very much relational and that we inspire and encourage people to do it with us. And it's just more fun together. I could do that whole practice alone, but having Renata guide it for me is a whole different experience. So welcome, my friend, my sister, an inspiration to me, Ali Katz. I'm so happy to have you here for Steadying the Storm. You are a woman who has created many successful endeavors. As a business leader, you also invest in movements and people and communities that you think are worth investing in, such as the independent movement politically in the United States. You are constantly empowering people around you. When you see somebody that has capacity and vision, you are often investing in them. And that's the thing that inspires me even more than your business success. There's many people with business success, but you have business success and you're a thought leader and you're a very prolific creator and you're constantly iterating, experimenting and willing to break things and willing to pivot and like you've put so much out in the world and you are really working to bring the people with you. And that's something that I think is very admirable and that we have a lot to learn from you about that and creating your own economy. So I'm so happy to have you and have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlene. Yeah, the only reason that I see to build anything bigger than just me, honestly, is to bring people with me. And I have actually built a whole financial planning model around that. And I hope that we get to talk about that today because this financial planning model, for those of you that decide to use it for your own financial decision making, as well as really your resource decision making, in my world, in our world, the way that I see it is that money is infinite, but it's our time, energy, and attention that are non-renewable resources. And often because of our inherited patterns of what something I call money dysmorphia, distorted view that we have around our resources, we are sacrificing our non-renewable resources individually, time, energy, and attention, planetarily, we know, in service to money. And so we have this opportunity to really shift that through new models of financial planning. And that is why I'm here. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I think that's why I was born ultimately at this time. And so I'm just really grateful, Charlene, to be invited to share that here with you today because it's not out in the world really in a big way.
Mm. I first want to underline something you just said, which is I feel this is the work I was born to do. And we've had a lot of conversations around purpose, influence, impact these last couple of days. And I just want to point that out because it's like all of the work you've done up until this moment is converging. And so your 30-year-old self perhaps didn't know it was building the building blocks and preparing. And I just want to say we have all different types of people listening, but there's these moments, these kind of crescendo moments where things start to really come together and it all makes sense. And you've always said it's all happening. So with all the change that is going on in the world, I just wanted to reflect and celebrate that because there's been lots of change in your life, lots of reinvention to come to this moment and say, this is what I'm here for. So great work.
Yeah, and I believe that we all have that inside of us as well, and that everything that is happening out there is actually helping to point to what we are each here for. And in fact, and especially during the times of chaos. And I only know that through my own lived experience where really 12, 13, 14 years ago, after my first, rise to traditional success as a lawyer working on legal transactions for Warren Buffett at Charlie Munger's firm, appearing on TV as a family financial and legal expert, and really following this very traditional path and making it, within this traditional path, and then having what I now can look back on and say was a spiritual awakening spiritual crisis, that in many ways to me seems very reflective of, that was really preparing me for this time now, where I think we are having a collective either spiritual awakening or spiritual crisis, depending on how we see it, through everything that's happening. What's happening now felt to me as if it was happening to me then, and I had these visions and knowings that this would be happening now, but I needed to keep reminding myself, or life needed to keep reminding me it's all happening, because I could easily get lost in the moment and in the belief that I had completely fucked it all up, and that I was never going to be able to live my purpose. When in fact, what was happening is that life was preparing me for my purpose. And I believe that for many of us here now, and especially those of you that are here with us, there's some resonance for you where you can recognize that what is happening in the world right now, or what is happening in your life right now, is happening for you. And it is guiding you to be able to see what is yours to do. And that if you can get into that reality, you can begin to make decisions from that reality and completely transcend any idea of anything happening to you, and really see how it's happening for you. And then you can start to reorient the use of your resources, your time, energy, attention, and money. I call that your team resources, so that you're not making your choices from any feeling of lack or scarcity, or if you are, that you understand why you're choosing that and how it's in service to your greater life picture, right? And you're doing it ultimately in the recognition that we're all dying, right? If we put it in the biggest frame, you're really making your choices within this awareness of the impermanence of life, that we are all dying, and that the question is, how are you going to use your resources, time, energy, attention, and money, between now and that day that your physical body is not on this plane, in the most optimal way, so that you have the best experience, but so that also we have the best experience together. And then, of course, that you leave it better, regardless of what's happening out there, whether it's a fire or a takeover of the government, or not a takeover of the government. We don't actually know what's happening. I don't know. There's a transition of power, but there's change happening. And you have so much control and so much power, so much more than you know. And so that's really what I'm here for today, is to remind you and to show you where that power lies within you, not just in the field, not just in the energetic field, not just through manifestation, but actually through the way that you choose to use your resources. And yeah, go ahead.
Let's go a bit deeper into that, because
Sure.
there's a lot of change in the world. You just mentioned the tip of the iceberg. There's so much change. And for some people, that puts them into a state of anxiety or inaction or apathy. But what I know is that this is a great opportunity to create wealth, to create change, to create influence. And you in your own life, you've utilized the power of change more than most people. You've been willing to reinvent. You've been willing to choose change and not necessarily always have it enacted on you. You will make big changes. And I think we live in a society where people are afraid of change. And so maybe you can bridge that into what do you see is people's power right now to enact change, to create wealth and resource, so that they can use that in service to creating the world that they say they want to create.
Great. Before I do that, let me just, give you the social proof of why you actually should be listening to me on this. And so I think that'll be helpful, because it'll help the part of your mind that's like, oh, who is this woman that what does she know? So 12, 13 years ago, I was in bankruptcy, living on a farm. I'd walked away from everything I created. Just this last year, as an enterprise and an ecosystem, we crossed the 10 million a year revenue mark. My next, where we're going to, is building to 100 million a year. I use those numbers because in our world currently, that is how we keep score. And so I'm sharing that with you so that the part of your mind that might need the logical, like I actually know what I'm talking about, I did it, can be soothed so that you can actually hear what I have to say. Because I've been able to do that without abandoning myself in the process. I mean, certainly I abandoned myself in the early years, right? Before I walked away from everything, I abandoned myself a lot. But I learned then how to integrate all of the parts of myself, which I think is a critical part of our journey together. Because if I'm not integrating all of the parts of myself, then I can't integrate all of the parts of you either. And if we are going to be able to create a collective upward spiral and come together to work together, then we are going to have to do that from our integrated whole parts, our integrated whole place. Otherwise, what we're going to do is just replicate the patterns of disintegration, projection, blame, victimization, drama triangle, fragmentation, all of that, the very things that we are fighting against, we don't want, will be the things that we just create again and again and again. So, part of what I've been able to do is to integrate internally and then create externally. Today, this $10 million a year enterprise, it's a legal and financial education organization that is here to transform the way that we make decisions about the use of our resources. Today, I have over 600 lawyers that have been trained in my methodology for estate planning, which to me is at the foundation of so much of our decision making, because it is looking at, okay, what happens to everything that I have if I become incapacitated and when I die, which we all do, of course, we all die. How do I make sure that I know how to take care of my parents, the senior generation? And, Charlene, you've got a big story with that yourself. And is one of the most confronting things for us to deal with. And then, of course, how do we be great legacy creators and truly leave the world a better place, whether it's through our own children or through the future generations? And estate planning is really at the heart of all of that. And so I've trained this army of lawyers to carry this through. And then what will be next is training this army of legal, insurance, financial, and tax advisors to use my methodology for helping us to see and heal money dysmorphia using this spiral path of the journey to financial liberation. And within the journey to financial liberation, I think that the thing that I want you to know as the most important part, first and foremost, is for you to know your own enough and how actually little that can be when you only need to take care of yourself at a minimum to thrive level. And knowing that is actually the place of your greatest liberation, because most of us are pretty disconnected from that. We've commingled our wants and our needs in such a way where we can just constantly feel like we're in this lack reality. And then through that money dysmorphia, we are either hoarding our resources unnecessarily, or we're not being generous, or we're actually not calling in enough. We're actually not calling in enough, and we're in this like just getting by reality, and then we become a drain on our community. Sadly enough, I had to learn this one through a woman that I met online who, she was so cool. She was a permaculturist and she was growing food in her bathroom. I don't know if I ever told you this story, Charlene. She was growing food in her bathroom. I thought that was so cool. She's growing food in her bathroom, like vegetables in her bathroom. Like this is the ultimate insufficiency of self-sufficiency, self-reliance, growing food in your bathroom. Anybody can do this anywhere. But unfortunately, she had this like very deep money dysmorphia, this just getting by reality where, yeah, she could grow food in her bathroom, but she could not bring in the money she needed at this minimum to thrive level. And I began supporting her financially. But it just, she couldn't get sufficient on her own. And she ended up needing to move out of her home because of mold, moved into a hotel, and ultimately died alone in this hotel. And it's like kind of like the worst nightmare of every single person, I think. And when I say single person, I mean like people who are not married or with kids, it's like, I'm gonna die alone. And she did. Um, and 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 it ultimately, when I look at why did that happen, it's because she became a drain in such a way that she couldn't she couldn't engage with other people um, from her own sufficiency, from her own sufficiency. And I saw it firsthand because of the way that like I couldn't financially support her to like keep living.
So let me ask you a question about this. So
Yeah.
in this conversation, because we both have people around us and listening to us that are both struggling financially and also many that have won the money game. And I want to speak to both because
Full
it's a
range. Yeah.
message for both. Maybe the same collective philosophy, but there's different actions and different things to focus on depending on where you're at. So because you brought her up, let's focus, you happen to have around you often really amazing humans who have a lot of value and wisdom to bring, but have not figured out the money game. What have you learned? If you were to point to a common thread there, what is it that you've learned about them? What would you like them to know so that these incredible people, because they're around you because they're incredible, right? And many
Right.
see their genius, but like they can't figure out exactly how to, play the money game, which is a game. It's not the ultimate game, but it's part of the game and it's really useful. What do
It's
you
part of the game. Yeah, it's part of the game that we've all chosen into by choosing to be born into this reality. And it is a way that we keep score, like I said earlier. And I want to say that I've had people, many, like you're saying, amazing people around me who are at that end of the spectrum, not able to take care of themselves financially, all the way up to the exact opposite, full range, multi billionaires that I'm in very close relationship with as well. So I really have, and that's part of how I know that this is my work to do in the world, right? Not everybody is given that full range of vision of a personal experience, not even vision, but personal experience with that full range.
the people that are showing up in front of you to be influenced by you?
Or to influence me, right? They've influenced me. She influenced me as well as the multi-billionaires. Like I'm seeing it through the direct experience. And so, and there is disease at both ends. Significant disease, right? Money dysmorphia actually comes in these four different expressions. The one that we'll talk about with respect to the woman who died in the hotel alone is this just getting by. It's this just getting by idea that actually um, disowns money and the importance of money and doesn't know how to ask for what they need in exchange for what they have to give. So, at the heart of the journey to financial liberation, at the very first stage, first phase, because it's a spiral path and there's actually four turns of the wheel and four stages at each turn of the wheel. And the first of the first, 1 is generate. You've got to know how to generate what you need when you need it in alignment with your values. And that's really important, the alignment with your values part, because a lot of people don't generate what they need because they don't know how to do it in alignment with their values. Sometimes they don't even know what their values are. So you can write this down. What do I need? What do I need? Minimum to thrive. Knowing that number, remember I just said that, knowing that number is your ultimate liberation. Because at any minute you can walk away of anything that is not in your values, that is not in alignment with your values, that is a compromise on who you are, and just go down to your minimum. We call it minimum to thrive. I used to call it minimum to be happy, but it's really minimum to thrive. Know your minimum to thrive and recognize that when you're with the right people, your minimum to thrive can actually be a lot lower than you think. When you're all on your own, it's higher because you got to do everything yourself. But actually, when you're with the right people, it can be lower than you think. So, for example, I always have community homes, right? And so here in Costa Rica, the home is like 15,000 a month, and Boulder it's 9,000 a month. But we share the cost among five people. So that's a lot less. We can live in these beautiful places, but we can share the cost. Eventually, when I'm in my no limits reality, I'm able to provide that at no cost or very minimal cost. But currently, the reality that I'm in, even though I have a $10 million a year enterprise, is we share the cost. I subsidize, but that makes it much lower, right? Much more available for those that are, in their minimum to thrive reality. And so how can you start to, team up with people where everybody really knows their minimum to thrive, where we're really intimate with that with each other? Like, this is what I need, my minimum to thrive. This is what I need, my minimum to thrive. And the pathway to the $10 million enterprise was that when I rebuilt from the bankruptcy, from zero, from rock bottom, which is also an expression of money dysmorphia, rock bottom, when I rebuilt from that, my first goal was not $1 million business, even though I had built $2 million businesses in the past. My first goal was not a $10 million enterprise or $1 billion anything. It was that I would provide a service that would meet my minimum to thrive. And that is always 1-1. Generate what you need, my minimum to thrive, in alignment with my values. And how do you do that? You do that by knowing what you need, knowing what your values are, being able to ask for what you need in exchange for what you have to give. So that means you need to be able to ask. That's really hard. That's really hard to ask for what you need. That's sales, by the way, which many people reject and repel sales because it's confronting. But the truth is that we're all always selling. We're all always enrolling someone into something, whether it's our kids or our spouse or our friends or our potential customers or the people that we can serve. So being able to ask for what you need in exchange for what you have to give. Well, okay, that's the other thing that people have a hard time with. What do I have to give, right? The gal who could grow vegetables in her bathroom, really, she didn't know what she had to give. And then sometimes I see people holding on to trying to give something that the market doesn't want. I'm actually dealing with this with a friend right now. God, she has such powerful work to bring to the world, specifically around helping people to heal their relationship with their kids. Like they don't feel like they're good parents. And she's got the codes, but all she wants to sell and give is helping people who are thinking about becoming parents, become parents. But the market doesn't want that. There's not enough pain there. And meanwhile, what do I see her continuously talk about? Is let me help you make the decision or feel confident to have a child. Nobody's buying that. And if I had tried to hold on and only keep selling what nobody was buying, I would still to this day be trying to build a business around getting people to name legal guardians for their kids in the right way, which, by the way, is part of my business now because it is critically important. But if I had just kept trying to build that and not stepped back and said, okay, and not able to make enough money with this, what else can I offer? What is the highest value thing that I know that I can offer? Which has turned out actually to be helping lawyers, not helping families. First and foremost, lawyers, they need what I have. They have the money to pay for it. Okay, that's really where I should focus next. But if I had tried to hold on to this other thing that was so precious to me, I never would have been here. So that's the foundation. And we've got it. We really all need to get in the right relationship with those things to start. One. Generate what you need in alignment with your values by being able to ask for what you need in exchange for what you have to give.
And something I just heard in what you said is to be willing to put something out there and actually take feedback from life. You're a
Yes.
prolific creator, and so something that I learned from you is
Yeah.
sell it, then build it. I'm still actually practicing that one, but because you want to get feedback from life. Do people actually want this? Are they resonating this? Is this the right timing? Am I too early? And so, you've in that process, you've refined and you continue to refine to what the market actually wants. And that's about being generous and not having to be all about you. And so that interface between I know the value and I know my own values, and yet there's many ways that can be expressed. And so maybe just finish that thought of how you think about, okay, this is who I am, this is what I love to do, this is the wisdom or the skills that I have, these are my values. But sometimes we get limited, like your friend, and this is the one thing I want to do, and they tie up everything in what they do. I need to have my needs met, my purpose met, my fulfillment, but you actually have expanded how you think about life to be very holistic. And there was a moment where you kind of wanted to burn down your business training lawyers. You
I
got
burned it all down. I did. I burned it all down.
so excited. You know what? I can actually serve here, and this can be a revenue generating source that then supports all the other things in my life. So tell us about how you think about that.
Yeah. So the starting place is need. It's need, and it's in alignment with your values, and it's not what you want. It's what you need. And that's why we really have to separate these things. When you get to the future turns of the wheel, you get to focus on what you want. So let me just go over the turns of the wheel because I think that would be helpful. There's 4 turns of the wheel in this journey to financial liberation. The first turn of the wheel is your minimum to thrive. And in your minimum to thrive, you are offering the thing that will meet your needs in the least amount of your time, energy, and attention. Right? So that's the matrix that, and in alignment with your values, so that you have excess time, energy, and attention to devote to the question of what do I do when I'm not doing it for the money? Because your needs are met, right? What do I do when I'm not doing it for the money? So, for example, my friend Laura Hollick, amazing artist entrepreneur today, when she didn't know what she loved and what she wanted to do and what would make money for her, she went and got a job as a mail woman, a mail carrier in Canada, and committed to walking in every day and delivering the mail to make money, to make just enough money that she needed to make so that she had the space to be in the question of, what do I want? What do I want? So what we're doing in this first level of your just meeting your needs is giving you the space, mental space, to be in the question of what do I want, where you're not in that question from a place of scarcity, because you actually have your needs met. And so anytime that you do go into a place of scarcity, which we will do because we've inherited scarcity patterns, survival patterns, we can actually do the work of healing our nervous system and say, oh, it's okay. You're okay. I know that you're scared that we don't have what we need, but we do. Look, I've made choices that have us have what we need. We have what we need. I know we don't have what we want yet, but we have what we need because we're going to make choices from this foundation of enough, from enough. So then you begin to realize on this, and you go through this turn of the wheel, which includes learning how to steward what you have, detaching from false beliefs, celebrating, and then coming back around to generate. And if you have done this well on this first turn of the wheel, you recognize, oh, I actually need more to be able to hire support. And that's the second turn of the wheel, is minimum to be of service. You begin to recognize, oh, I could be of better service if I wasn't doing things that take away from my ability to serve. Now, in order to be of service, minimum to be of service, in order for this to make sense, you do have to know what you have to serve with. right? So that turn of the wheel, the second turn of the wheel, really depends on you knowing that you have a gift to give that's valuable, right? So Laura walked that mail route until she knew, oh, I want to be an artist entrepreneur. And she had some vision of that service that she wanted to give. So then her second turn of the wheel now is about hiring support to be able to build that, right? To be able to build that. So now that's going to require you to generate a larger amount, because now it's not just about meeting your own needs, but about meeting the needs of the ecosystem that you are creating to help you to be of service. And that might mean investing in learning to provide a service, learning to increase the value of the services you already provide. Maybe you went to school for something, but like you need, right? So we help lawyers make, in my company, we help lawyers to increase the value of their service. Yes, they went to law school. They probably paid, between $50,000 and $100,000 for their law degree, but law school didn't teach them how to provide a valuable service, actually. And that's the case for a lot of service providers, right?
How to have a business. I know you help them actually have a
Yeah, yeah. How to develop a service model, pricing and packaging, sales systems, marketing structures. Right? But, your school didn't teach you that, whatever you went to school for. So you have to invest in that. But then you also need to invest in support, right? If I can offer my service for even just $100 an hour, which we also don't recommend you charge hourly, but in your mind it might be, oh, I can recommend, this $100 an hour service. Well, then doesn't it make sense for you to start to hire people at $20, $25 an hour so that you have more time? And then what can you begin to get off your plate, right? Dan Martell made this famous with his book, Buy Back Your Time. And it's a great resource for, just reinforcing that idea of like, oh, right, I should hire support. So that's the second turn of the wheel, is what is the support that I need so that I can provide more of my service.
And I
And
want to
then
say
the third, yeah. Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of my clients, they think about business, they have teams in their businesses. A lot of people overlook the personal support, having a personal assistant or someone who cleans I know you have someone that cleans the home often because it's a community home, and just those personal, I think people overlook that, and that can buy back so much time to be personally supported, having someone that cooks for you, having a
Yeah.
partner, having a coach, having a massage therapist that comes regular. I consider that part of building your capacity. It's not necessarily buying back your time when you have those personal investments like massage or personal trainer, but it builds your capacity. So I just wanted to underline that because a lot of people just think, okay, let me hire someone in my team only.
And if you're doing a really good job with your taxes and making educated choices about how you structure your bookkeeping, this is part of something we teach in our programs, you can write a lot of that off. And now the government is subsidizing it. These are like the strategies of the super rich. You can do that too, right? And I recommend that you do, because then you get like this is one of the benefits of having a business. And so and that's part of your stewardship at the minimum to be of service level, is how are you filing your taxes in a way that you're actually subsidized by the government to hire support? And how do you not be like, oh, I need some CPA to do this for me? No, you don't. You do it for yourself. And then you give your numbers to your CPA so they can file on your behalf. But they don't tell you how to do it. You learn how to do it. So
Okay,
that's
third
the
rung.
second turn of the wheel. Yeah. And just to know, on the second turn of the wheel, I have what I need. My ecosystem has what they need. My ecosystem has what they need or what it needs. Third turn of the wheel is what we call preferred if you could afford it. And this is where you start to have what you want. You don't get to have what you want until your ecosystem has what it needs. Now, your next turn of the wheel, generate, is going to be ideally even a bigger amount, because you get to start to have what you want. Now, having what you want is a whole thing as well, because that means you have to acknowledge what you want. And we've got a lot of cultural conditioning around that internally. Are my desires worthy? Can I really have what I want? Is this okay? Is this responsible? All of those things that we have to work through. And for me, I did not feel good having what I wanted until everybody in my ecosystem had what they needed. That's why it's the third turn of the wheel. And then I have discovered, and I don't even know if you and I have talked about this, Charlene, but I have discovered what the no limits, the fourth turn of the wheel means. Because I knew there were four turns of the wheel. I knew that one of them was no limits in this model, but I did not know what no limits was because I had not lived it myself. And I was like, what is this no limits thing? How do we define this? Oh, Charlene, it is, I have what I want and everyone in my ecosystem has what they want.
Mm.
That is the true no limits. It's a
Mm.
we, right? So we've got me, we've got me, we've got or no, we've got me, then we've got we, then we've got me, we, and then we've got we again.
Okay, I love that it's a generous model. It's based on everybody winning and everybody thriving. And I assume that comes with the recognition that we can only thrive if the people that are around us that we love are also thriving. And so, and this comes back to the legacy model that you have, which is not just what do I leave my children, it's what am I creating while I'm living. And so I'd love to hear you
Yeah.
speak about a bit more about it's not just about getting to the unlimited to the we win win win, but it's
Mm-hmm.
so,
Mm-hmm.
that's a methodology and it's a philosophy about how you think about money and stewardship and how you build. And so please share with us your philosophy of legacy and of creating true financial liberation and to what service, to what point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I want to say is that we don't need to all be shooting for a no limits reality, right? What we want to be shooting for is just our next. And life is then going to keep bringing you to the next horizon line where you can see where do you go next. And so I almost walked away from being a lawyer and even doing estate planning because I didn't, I was like, why am I being a lawyer and why am I doing estate planning? This is so shallow. Like, this is just about putting in place legal documents to pass on wealth from one generation to the next, like financial wealth from one generation to the next, and keep people out of court, all of which is valuable at one level, but it was not valuable enough for me. Like, I did not find that inspiring at all. And so when I went down to my minimum to thrive, because I did walk away, and I was like, okay. And I didn't even know what minimum to thrive was at that point. I hadn't developed this model yet, but I had to live it to develop it. When I walked away from everything, I moved to this farm and I said, okay, I'm only going to do what I would do for free for one whole year. And then all sorts of things started coming in my life to show me the future of this model. But that all only happened through me living the life, right? Making choices to live my life in alignment with my values and with this question of, if I was the heroine in this story and I was reading the book, what is the next choice I would make now? That I would be cheering her on. And I made every choice through that lens. And and ultimately what life was able to show me is, oh, estate planning is not just about passing on financial wealth when we die. It's about the choices that we make about the use of our resources right now. Right? Right? It's because it is all happening actually right now. You right now, when you stop listening to this, are going to make your next choice, your next decision about how to use your time, energy, attention, and money, your team resources. And that choice and that decision is going to kick off a ripple effect or butterfly, whatever they call it, that is going to change everything for you. For you. And that is ultimately the only thing that will create a legacy through you. The only thing is each of your choices, each of your next choices. And you don't make those after you die. You make them today, you make them now. And so my invitation is to really make those choices with your eyes wide open, as I call it, with a true understanding of who you are, why you're here, what's yours to do, as much as you can know in this very moment, or at least an earnest desire to know that, and a recognition that you didn't come here randomly. You're not just here to earn money and pay the bills, that you are actually here to leave the world better than you found it. And that is ultimately the only thing that feels good, right? It's the only thing that I believe, and I've hit all the heights of success right now and the lows, and I can tell you from my own personal experience, it's the only thing that's ultimately fulfilling, especially when there's all the chaos going on around us.
I was speaking with a financial advisor this last week while at the Yellowstone Club, and he works with ultra wealthy people who have in their
Mm.
mind that legacy is about how much money they pass on after they die. And his whole work is about supporting people. I mean, it's financial planning, but a big part of that is encouraging people to invest in their family while they're alive and to actually participate in philanthropy and to start flowing their resources into the economy, particularly into their families now, so they can see and have the felt experience of watching that, hopefully that person's life be blessed. And so
Were
maybe
you with Bill Perkins?
no.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, you got to introduce me to that guy
I would
that
be
you were with. Yeah.
I'll leave with this question.
Hmm.
For you to do that, in order for you to be somebody that hires your friends, that invests in your friends, that has a thriving family, that invests in your
Hmm.
kids, in your ex-husband, you've had to do a lot of work on yourself. So it's not as simple as let me just start sharing my money. In order for you to do that in a way that feels integrous, there's been a lot of healing in how you think about that. And so maybe you can just share a brief look into that because it's a nice idea and it's a beautiful philosophy. And what he said is that his clients become much happier and more fulfilled as they start to actually circulate their money now rather than hoarding it until they die and just having it only multiply, multiply, multiply. And I know you've experienced that and if you've seen that with your wealthy friends, but we can maybe leave us with just like a practice or something to consider to have us be able to do that well.
So I'm writing my book right now, Money Dysmorphia and the Journey to Financial Liberation. And the very first chapter is, how would your choices be different if you knew you had enough?
Hmm.
So I just leave you with that. I leave you with that question. How would your choices be different on a day-to-day, moment by moment, month to month, week to week, quarter to quarter basis? How would your choices of how you use your time, energy, and attention, your non-renewable resources, be different if you knew you had enough? And you can let that take you down a very deep rabbit hole. You could do that just at the surface, but you could also really let that lead you down a deep rabbit hole to even start to ask the question of, do I know I have enough? Does one part of me know I have enough, but does another part of me think I don't? Let me start to deconstruct that. Let me start to look at that. Let me start to look at the part of me that thinks I don't have enough or is afraid of running out. How am I making choices from that part? What if I wasn't making choices from that part? There's a big body of work there. I have a course on this called the Enough Course. In fact, you helped me, Charlene, to record the first iteration of that, the Enough Course. It's so in need of an update, but it's still fantastic. Um, because it just gets us into that question, and it gets us into the question of what is enough. What is
Mm.
enough? Because that's what I didn't know when I first started to uh really look at this in myself, is I didn't know what was enough. I didn't
Mm.
know how to even determine what was enough. And enough changes over time and throughout our life in different stages and ages and phases. And so it's not a static number, but it is a number. And it is a
Mm.
number where you are right now, and you want to revisit it consistently so that no matter what, this brings us back to the very beginning of the call here today. That is your point of liberation, no matter how much you have, knowing how little you need is liberation.
Mm. I love that. That's a beautiful way to end. And I want to underline something that was a thread throughout, but I just happen to know about you, which is that wealth is relational, meaning that there's no really point of anything without relationships. And I've seen you invest in things like co-living in Costa Rica and in the independent national movement and things like that, and where the movement itself is something that you value, but really you're investing in people that you want to share your life with, that you want to build your life with. And so you invest in what they're up to because it also gives you a shared purpose to be in relationship with those people. And there's very few things more powerful than having shared collaborative work to build relationship. And that's something I see that you really prioritize and have given generously, not just to see those things succeed, but that you're actually investing in relationships and your life is continuously blessed from those relationships. And so I just want to underline that for everybody. It's been a theme over these conversations about resilience is that relationship is everything. Resilience is relational. So with that, thank you for this beautiful conversation, Miss Allie Katz. How can people connect with you?
Thank you. I would recommend the best way to connect with me is to go to eyeswideopenlife.com and download my series called We Create the Economy. And then you'll start getting my emails, and I recommend that you read them and see what I have coming up. I do also have a group, a free Facebook group and things like that, but that's where I would start is with the We Create the Economy video series, and I would recommend that you watch it.
Okay, eyeswideopenlife.com and Allie Katz
Yeah.
on the socials.
Yes.
And I do
It's
recommend.
actually the Allie Katz on the socials because there is another Allie Katz who's like the mindfulness mom or something like that. I am the Allie Katz that is this one. Personal family lawyer, journey to financial liberation, money dysmorphia, eyes wide open, lift, all of that.
And I do recommend you all follow her because she has, as you've seen, a really grounded, balanced, holistic perspective of financial liberation and wealth, and is both playing the money game, but also redefining what that is and learning how to play in a way that's very integral and life affirming. So I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you, Allie Katz.
Love you. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you for doing this work. And I look forward to us getting to play together some more in the future.
Me too.
I would love for anybody that is here live, and I know you've got your next guest here, Jeffrey Michael Karp. But I'd love for any of you that are here live, if you want to just share one thing in the chat that was a takeaway, if you are here live, that would be valuable for me to hear. What are you taking away from this session? If anything.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing those.
Yeah.
And
yeah, let me know if anything comes through there.
one thing that I took away, which is small, but I think meaningful, is that a lot of people have a hard time identifying what their value is in the marketplace or knowing what it's hard to see yourself. And I'm someone who sees people very well, but I often withhold that scene unless they're my client or in intimacy and they ask. But I want to be more generous with actually helping people see what I think they could bring to the ecosystem because that story you shared just had me realize how much pain people often are in. Even if they've had lots of success, sometimes they're still in the like, I don't know what I'm doing or what's next. So just being willing to actually celebrate people and help them see is one of the takeaways I took away. So thank you, Allie.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Okay, good. I love some of these shares. Thank you all. Thank you, Dave. Loving the idea of determining what is enough. Yes. And Jenna, very helpful to start shifting your thought process in new directions around money and family. So glad. I'm so glad that you were here. And